Hi, hi everyone. Welcome. My name is Montserrat Garibay, and I'm the Secretary Treasurer of the Texas AFL-CIO. And we're, of course, very excited today. We have a really good panel. We have Jesus Perales, who is our immigration coordinator from the Texas AFL-CIO, and we also have immigration lawyer Paul Parsons. We're very excited that you're here today. We just wanted to have a conversation about the Supreme Court yesterday. Of course, we're going to be talking about the deferred action for arrival. Many of you know, uh, former President Barack Obama on June 15, 2012, he was able to implement the executive decision due to a lot of organizing through grassroots organizing for many groups, and we were able to have the Daca for over 700,000 people in the state. And a lot of them are union members. Many of them are teachers, counselors, electricians, carpenters, people that work in the hotel industry, and a lot of them are union members. I'm a teacher, and we have around 2,000 teachers in the state of Texas who have deferred action for childhood arrival. So yesterday, we have been waiting for the Supreme Court decision, and we were very surprised, but also very hopeful of what this means. The Supreme Court had a decision of 5-4 decision by to keep DACA alive, which is a really big deal. It really is going to make the life of many documented individuals so much easier, right, to have this work permit. But we wanted to kind of interview someone who has had DACA for a very long time, and it's our very own Jesus Perales. So, Jesus, can you tell us how do you feel about this decision?
Yeah, so I mean, I think honestly, well, speaking for myself, it's a huge relief. I think we were always kind of working, kind of keeping an eye on the clock to seeing what exactly the decision will be and how that's going to affect the rest of our lives. Essentially, we're on a 2-year permit, and being able to renew that permit continuously, it's very beneficial. Just being able to work here in the country that I love and being able to live here without fear of deportation. It's really important for me, and so I'm really excited and really relieved to have a positive outcome for sure.
Yeah. When you're talking with your friends who have DACA, what are some of the things also that they're sharing about this with their families as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think for a lot of our families, right, it's like some folks are the main breadwinners, for immigrant families, and having the ability to work legally in this country, it just provides so many opportunities for folks, and that also comes with things like health insurance, good working conditions, and being able to advocate for yourself as well. I think DACA has been empowering for a lot of individuals, and so being able to continuously have that protection means the world to us. It's literally our lives.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you. I know that here at the Texas AFL-CIO, we are so blessed to have you to have you run our citizenship programs, and the way that you're engaging with our community, with our union sisters and brothers. It's just very it's great to see, but also the fact that many of our union brothers and sisters have very similar stories and journeys like you, right? And the fact that our different unions, from the national AFL-CIO to the different unions, were very excited about this important decision. But we also know, right, that this is just one step, and we still have so much more to go. Can you tell us a little bit more of what are your hopes and dreams after this decision?
Yeah, so I mean, I think for me, it's like I said, it's a breather. It's a good time to self-reflect and to be appreciative, but it's also, I'm cognizant that the November elections are extremely important, right? So whatever happens in November is going to really determine what the final outcome is going to be, right? So right now, like we're celebratory, we're excited, but there's a lot of hard work ahead, and there's a lot of hard work that we need to do in order to make sure that DACA recipients and immigrants as a whole are continuously protected. I think the folks who are fighting against DACA are going to go back to the drawing board, right? They're going to go back and try to figure out how to take it away again. And so, on our end, as a DACA recipient, and also as union leaders and as labor leaders, our work is to essentially make sure that we have a favorable, goal and win in November to make sure that we continue to protect those folks who have DACA and the immigrant community as a whole.
For sure, and I think as I talk to some of my students who have DACA now, and I've been messaging with their parents, we just having conversations with them. I tell them that yes, this is a very important step, but we also are we're very committed to ensure that the original dreamers, right, who are our parents, so they can make sure that they have also a pathway to citizenship as well. So yes, we have DACA, but we also want to make sure that every documented individual has a pathway to citizenship. And also the truth is that we also have TPS holders, right, who are in limbo as well. And many young students and young individuals who were not able to get their DACA permits are also in the limbo and are also worried about what's going to happen to them, right? But that's also something that the struggle continues, the fight continues, and as the labor movement, we are committed to keep organizing for racial equity and for our immigrant brothers and sisters. But we were so grateful, Paul Parsons, that you are joining us today. We wanted to get the knowledge and get a little bit more information about what the Supreme Court decision means. We know that it's a thick decision, right? A lot of information, but if you can just please give us a little bit of overview of what the Supreme Court decision means.
Montserrat, it's a fascinating and very interesting decision, and they ruled that agency action is something subject to judicial review, and that the Trump administration's reasons that they had given to suddenly terminate DACA were arbitrary and capricious, that they didn't give the right reasons. And the decision does say that all sides of the dispute, of the litigation, everyone agrees that the administration could terminate DACA. And so this is a huge victory because it certainly bought us more time. And the only reason, of course, we got to this point is advocacy from Dreamers protesting and really making a lot of noise so that it caught the attention of President Obama. And fortunately, President Obama, after 10 years of the DREAM Act, year after year, coming close to passing and never passing, finally came up with this wonderful program. And so what we worry about is that the Trump administration could go back now and try to start over and give the reasons they're looking for. The first time they didn't break it out and say that, well, we're giving benefits, work permission, but we're also giving deferred action and not taking action to deport people. And they should have discussed the breaking those two out. And the main thing is that so many people had relied on having DACA. And I love this language from the decision where Justice Roberts said, talking about the reliance upon the program, DACA recipients have enrolled in degree programs, embarked on careers, started businesses, purchased homes, and even married and had children, all in reliance on the DACA program. Consequences would radiate outward to their families, including 200,000 United States citizen children, and to the schools where DACA recipients study and teach, and to the employers who have invested time and money to train these DACA recipients. So the court said they didn't even address all of that reliance. And for an agency to suddenly end a program, they have to give good reasons. Initially, Acting Secretary of Homeland Security Duke gave some reasons, but didn't address these issues that they should have considered, like reliance. And 9 months later, the new Secretary of Homeland Security, Nielsen, tried to come back with new reasons. But a big part of this decision, Montserrat, talks about you have to articulate reasons at the time you make the decision, and you can't come back 9 months later and give either different reasons or try to enhance those reasons. So it's a very interesting decision. I encourage people to look at it.
So we've been having a lot of questions from some of our affiliates and some of our members who have DACA, and actually some family members from DACA-minted students. And the big question is, can new applicants apply for DACA? That's one of the biggest questions that we're getting.
Of course, that's the biggest question. And the decision says that they're putting it back to when they ended the program in September of 2017. So that tells us, okay, the program's back on the table, and they need to accept new applications and even reopen for people that already have DACA. We'll come to advanced parole in a minute, but you should be able to apply. But I would caution people not to get too excited and race to apply too quickly, because the Department of Homeland Security, Citizenship and Immigration Services has to come up with a plan to start accepting the new applications. We had a caller, we're getting a lot of calls with this question, can we apply now? And we're telling people it's too early. You can start seeing whether or not you would qualify for an initial DACA application and look at the documentation you could start gathering and whether you meet the requirements, which we can discuss here. But I don't think people should go pay a private lawyer and hire them to do something that we don't know that can be done. And two things I saw this morning. One, a quote from an article in the Chicago Tribune. They said it's unlikely that the Trump administration will take new applications without being forced by the courts. So, of course, there's going to be more litigation. But if that's true, then if people just mail an application now, there's a very good chance it'll just be rejected. And the other thing, if you haven't seen it yet, was Trump's tweet this morning. We can't rely on his tweets, but he said that the Supreme Court punted like in a football game, and that according to him, nothing was won or lost. And he said, we will be submitting, quote, enhanced papers, whatever enhanced papers means. But you can see the president's upset, but he's going to have to make a decision before the election. Does he want to make a very controversial decision and move towards starting over and giving more sound reasons where, despite all this reliance, that instead of an arbitrary and capricious decision, that they would make a reasoned decision? Does he want to try that when the vast majority of voters have expressed that they support Dreamers in DACA? So I don't know that he has time. And as Jesus pointed out, a lot depends on this election.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess your recommendation would be for people that are ready to send an application is to hold on?
Yes, at this point. It's just the day after the decision. And I think they should not mail it at this point. I think they should wait and see if CIS agrees to start accepting these applications. And I don't, you know very well, Montserrat, that sometimes when there are new immigration laws, people get excited and they race to spend their money, and sometimes there are non-lawyers and even lawyers that just want the money.
Right.
And I would be cautious, save the money and be ready. But you could consult with the nonprofit agencies. You can consult with private lawyers about whether or not it looks like you're going to be eligible. And I think if we have a minute, we should go over the requirements for the initial DACA. I can do that. And not race to apply. Wait to see.
Yeah, that would be really helpful. I think as a rule of thumb, you always have to be prepared, right? So one of the things that you're saying is don't send it in yet, but do start preparing your paperwork, the documents that you are going to need. Would you like to tell us what are some of the things that they need to apply for DACA?
Well, the big thing is you have to have gotten into the country before you were 16 years old. You also had to be here by June 15th of 2012. So that's 8 years ago. You couldn't have been here in a lawful status on that day, like if you were an international student at that point. You have to have been living here since 2012. You have to have had what they call physical presence on that day. You couldn't be in Mexico or another country and then race back in if you weren't here on June 15th of 2012. You had to be under age 31 on that day. And, we did lots of DACA cases over the years, but once you got it, you didn't have to go through this exercise that we do on every initial one. But you have to make sure that a person either graduated from high school or they're still in school, or the best part was they could just enroll in a GED class and be working towards getting a GED. They don't have to have the GED, or they could have the GED, or they could be a veteran. And so there's that educational component. And as far as the criminal background, the vast majority of the DACA recipients have never been arrested for anything. They're very well behaved, but you couldn't have one felony or 3 misdemeanor convictions. And for the first time ever in immigration law, they invented something called or a significant misdemeanor. And we're going to call, this has been painful for many, we're going to call a significant misdemeanor a driving under the influence, or DWI. A single one will knock you out of DACA. So those that even have DACA now have to be on really good behavior, better than their friends that were born here. They need to not drink and drive, stay away from drugs, and other significant misdemeanors are things like burglary and unlawful firearms and distribution of controlled substances. So those are the main requirements.
One of the big questions that people are asking us is what happens to the pending applications?
The pending applications are in great shape. Before this decision, of course, we all thought it was going to be a negative decision. Jesus, I bet you and some of your friends were really worried about this one. We all were.
Of course.
And it was a pleasant surprise to see this decision. Very close, 5-4. Yeah. But thank you, Justice Roberts and the other justices that voted for our team. And so I lost my train of thought there, Montserrat. What were you asking?
Yeah. What happens to the pending applications?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. So the pending applications are going great. We were so worried about it. We were sending off lots of renewals early. We'll talk about that in a minute. But they were processing these really fast. For a lot of immigration applications, they can take as long as 1.5 years to look at them. But on the DACA renewals, we were getting them in a month or sometimes even faster. During the virus, they were using old fingerprints and not making people come in for biometrics again. And so the renewals are going great. And if someone has DACA, even if it's expired, they really should consider renewing.
Yeah, and there's also like a few people that submitted their application earlier than normal. Do you have any advice for them? Because that's also another of the questions that people are asking.
Yes, they've said in the past that they only want them 6 months before your 2-year DACA work permit will expire. But we've sent in a lot of them, even where it was 9 months, 12 months, and even more. And we've been getting approvals on those. Now, you don't get 2 years from the date of expiration of your existing work permit. You get 2 years from the date that they approve it. So some people were so worried in the last couple of months that they even had another year remaining on their DACA, and they went ahead and applied. Since the court is required, has made it clear that DACA still lives, and they might even take initial applications, they certainly will continue to take renewals. And I don't think it's so urgent if someone still has a year or even a year and a half on their DACA right now. It's not so urgent to send it off. But if it's less than 6 months, that would be a good time to send off for a renewal.
Yeah, for sure. Another big question is like, is advanced parole open? Is that an option again with the Supreme Court ruling?
It should be, just like they should accept initial applications. They should also reinstate advanced parole, which they stopped at the same time that they stopped September 2017 taking initial applications. Now let's explain to everyone what is meant by advanced parole. I tell my clients that parole sounds like a criminal, but it's not. It's advance permission to leave the U.S. and come back. So you have to, for the DACA ones, unlike someone married to a citizen, for the DACA ones, you have to give a good reason. It could be humanitarian. It could be for business. We had one client that we got when we could before September 2017. She worked for a big fast food franchise in management, and she found a conference that suddenly they needed her to go to outside the U.S. in the Dominican Republic. And she did that, came back, and because she was married to a U.S. citizen, even though she had originally come with no papers, because she left and came back with permission, she was able to get her green card. And we had a lot of DACA recipients that fit into those categories. Most people have a humanitarian reason that they need to go. It could be to go do a mission project with their church, or more commonly, they have a grandparent that's not doing well, and they really want to go see their grandma or grandfather before it's too late. And Montserrat, I can't tell you how happy they are when they come back.
Yeah, for sure.
Seeing their family that they've not seen for sometimes for decades.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And I think something that like right now, right, with the COVID-19, for instance, the border is being shut down, right? So that is something that, even though, and I'm not a lawyer, but I'm just asking this question because it is asked a lot of, you can get advanced parole, but if you're in the border, the agent can deny you entrance, right? It's up to them to get you in or out. But also, I think right now with the COVID-19, the borders are closed per se. People really need to be very careful on that. What is your advice to someone that maybe they would like to apply for advanced parole maybe next week? But what would you advise them since the COVID-19, everything that's happening with that? How would you advise them to go on that?
Right now, for essential travel, they'll let people come and go. So if someone has a TN work visa or an H-1B employment specialty worker status, they'll let them enter the country. And most every country will let their own citizens come back in. So, for example, if we're talking about our neighbor Mexico, people already have, or they go to the Mexican consulate here and they get a Mexican passport, probably they can go. But you're right, they need to check the current rules, which are changing a lot as the virus either spreads or calms down. But we don't know, just like we don't know yet if they're going to accept initial applications. We don't know yet if they're going to take advanced parole for travel permits. Mm-hmm. So it's probably premature to put one together and send it off. Mm-hmm. But people can start thinking of the reasons that they might need to travel. And of course, if it's to see an elderly grandparent and they can get a letter from that person's doctor or hospital, that would go a long way to assure that the application will be approved. If it is approved, and if the virus allows them to leave the U.S., the permit says on it, it's kind of scary. It says, this isn't a guarantee we'll let you back into the country. Right. But I've seen countless advanced paroles that we've gotten for clients over the years. Mm-hmm. And I've never had a client denied a return because they were pre-approved for this. They're hassled, especially if they drive, or even fly. Immigration will take them aside and look at their paperwork, and it'll take some time, but they let them in.
Yeah, that's very true. Jesus, do you have any questions that you would like to ask Paul?
Yeah, so I think in terms of the timetable that we see, if the president does want to, for example, file another lawsuit against Daca, how would that look like? What timetable would that follow? And could he be able to do it before the election?
People are predicting that he won't have time, despite his tweet this morning. And he may decide it's not in his political interest to do this because, as I said, it would be inflammatory. So many U.S. citizens love and support DACA recipients. So I don't think he'll start over and try to race to put out new valid reasons. But the court does say that he could put out new reasons and that they think about it and they have to explain, despite all this considerable reliance by DACA recipients and their families and their employers, that we think that the program should not go forward and that it outweighs all that reliance. That's a big mountain to climb, in my opinion. But if he can try to issue reasons that are not arbitrary and capricious, then they could try to end it again. And of course, then there'll be more litigation. And the question is, while there's litigation, can initial applicants be submitting their DACA applications?
Yeah. And so another big question is also, like, can DACA still be terminated in the future?
Absolutely. And that was what I was trying to explain, that if the Trump administration comes forward and starts over and tries to not give arbitrary and capricious reasons. For example, they said that part of DACA is deferred action, that we won't start deportation proceedings against these young people that grew up in our country, called forbearance. Deferred action. We just won't take action. We'll take prosecutorial discretion. But the other part was benefits, and that's the work permission and that you're lawfully present. They say if you have DACA, you're not unlawfully present during the time that you have DACA, and that you can get Social Security benefits that you've earned. You can get Medicare. So you're getting benefits. And the court talks about, well, in their rationale, they should have separated out deferring action and the benefits. And they could have said, we're not going to give more benefits, but we're going to continue to defer action. And they could have said, or we're going to take away both, but they didn't discuss any of that. They just said, oh, we think that was an unlawful program. And that didn't make it in the eyes of the court. That was arbitrary and capricious.
Thank you for that. I know that's a lot of information, but it's really good information, and we really appreciate that you're taking the time to kind of educate us on how important it is for people that have DACA to apply for it right now. Still keep doing that, because there's a lot of uncertainty, or there was a lot of uncertainty waiting for the Supreme Court decision on people who wanting to apply. We apply again, should I not? But I think that it's really important that they do. And like you were saying, Paul, if people want to apply for the first time, they should wait a little, right? They should talk to different immigration lawyers or organizations. Here in Austin, we have the Coalition Here to Stay. They actually are having a DACA clinic in the next few days. So that's a place to start as well. But for people to kind of start preparing their documents to apply, but also doing it not to just send them away, right? To kind of take some time, because we might have some changes as well. Any other maybe I didn't ask questions? Something that you would like to share?
Of course, we have nonprofit agencies that are approved to help people with immigration matters, among them American Gateways, Immigration Legal Services of Catholic Dioceses, RAICES, and we have some wonderful immigration lawyers if people want to have private consultations or representation. Nobody has to get a lawyer for DACA. They can represent themselves as on any legal matter, but sometimes it helps to have counselors on your team.
Yes, for sure. Actually, we have, with our citizenship campaign, we have a list of immigrant lawyers. The lawyers who have, volunteering so many of our citizenship things, and his information is there as well. But maybe we can put it on the chat. But it's a comprehensive list of immigration lawyers here in Austin, but also lawyers throughout the whole state, where we have citizenship in Houston, in Dallas, Corpus Christi, El Paso. So we are happy to share that information. Sharing is caring, and we're very appreciative of all the immigration lawyers who do a fantastic job. I'm very blessed that actually Paul Parsons was my personal lawyer. So very, very grateful for all the work that he's doing. Jesus, you have any closing remarks?
Yeah, so I mean, absolutely. I think definitely encouraging folks who are eligible for DACA and those folks who may want to talk to an attorney to definitely have that conversation. So we mentioned Texas Here to Stay. So this is a Facebook post for Texas Here to Stay. They're having a virtual DACA clinic soon. And you have to register, but you can definitely get more information. All the services, I believe, are pro bono. So it's a great opportunity for those folks who have additional questions and concerns about their personal case to go ahead and make that appointment and talk to those immigration attorneys. Also, as Montserrat mentioned, we have a citizenship campaign that we do through the state federation. But we also have a good amount of resources for attorneys here in the Austin area, but also statewide. These are attorneys who have helped us in our citizenship campaigns and our pros at immigration. So most of them are really great. And there's also information about other nonprofit organizations that we work with that can definitely help you out with a DACA case. So, like I said, this is a great opportunity for folks. This is a great sign of relief, but it's also, hopefully soon additional time for folks to renew and initially apply. So you should definitely take advantage of that.
Yeah. Paul, would you like to say some closing remarks?
Well, as I said earlier, Montserrat, every time there's something new, people are excited and they just want to do something. But be cautious. Don't go to lawyers that don't have good reputations or experience and spend a lot of money and try to send off something prematurely. Be a little bit patient and let's see if immigration's going to announce that they're going to accept initial applications again and then advance parole for travel permits for people that have DACA.
Yeah, for sure. We will definitely keep you all informed. And also we will, as the Texas AFL-CIO, we are again committed to provide information to our different central labor councils and affiliates. And we will be having a Dream Summer Fellow next week starting, and she and Jesus will be working on providing information about the Supreme Court ruling, and we will keep informing our community as well. So we're very excited about the wonderful opportunity for the DACA-mented dreamers to keep the DACA alive. We are definitely excited. It has been a long struggle, a lot of organizing, but it's also an example of never giving up and always making sure to keep organizing at different levels. We're very blessed to be working with different organizations, with United We Dream, with all the different unions, all the different coalitions, and that's what it takes to do something different, to do the change that our country needs, is by building coalitions to make sure that we share the information with our community, but also do know that you can get empowered by having this information and to share this information with everyone. So we hope to have more information, maybe have a live stream in Spanish for our community that speaks Spanish to provide this information. But again, thank you so much, Paul, for taking the time to share the knowledge, your knowledge, and also thank you, Jesus, for being part of this stream live session about DACA. We really appreciate it, and we're looking forward to keep working.
Thank you so much, Montserrat.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for all you do, Montserrat. And
Bye. Thank you.